This is exactly right.
This episode is supported by FX's The Shards, a seductive drama from executive producer Ryan Murphy.
Set in 1980s Los Angeles, the series follows a group of glamorous, deeply entangled high school seniors drawn into a life of wealth, beauty, parties, and excess.
At its center is Brett, whose reality begins to unravel when the arrival of a new student coincides with a series of mysterious murders.
FX's The Shards premieres August 5th on FX and Hulu.
Goodbye.
Capture your favorite summer feeling with Pandora Jewelry.
Discover a collection inspired by the sunshine, freedom, and moments that make the season unforgettable.
From sun-kissed metals to personalized pieces ready to be engraved with your summer mantra.
Each design moves with you from beach days to golden nights and every memory in between.
Shop Pandora Jewelry's new summer collection in-store or online at pandora.net and let your summer unfold. Goodbye.
This may surprise you, but clothes that feel good and look good don't have to be mutually exclusive.
Designs that make you feel as good as you look is what Hill House is known for.
Hill House Home invented the viral nap dress.
Hill House makes fun, versatile fashion that elevates your look. I now own 3 nap dresses. I love them. They're so comfy and cute. Pockets for days. You know, get 15% off your first order of $100 or more at hillhousehome.com with code MFM15.
That's MFM15 for 15% off at hillhousehome.com.
Goodbye. Hello. Whoa. And welcome. There it is.
That's what we're looking for.
There it is.
To my favorite murder.
And it all falls
to my
apart.
favorite. To my favorite murder.
That's Karen Kilgareth.
That is Georgia Hardstark.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Here we are.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I have a tension in my neck, shoulder.
Uh-huh.
And so sometimes I can't lift my arm. And then sometimes I do lift my arm anyway. And it makes a popping sound.
You know, lifting your arm is like math. You never use it in your adult life.
Right? That's the thing. Is you do not need your shoulders.
You do not need to lift your arm. You're not at a concert. You're not going to a concert. You're not fucking hailing a cab.
I was told to put my hands in the air like I don't care, and I don't care. So I just needed to indicate it.
Yeah. If Freebird comes on, you can hold your lighter up with your other hand. You don't
click,
need...
clack, click.
Yeah. What's up with the mini trampoline behind you?
Oh,
Did you
that's
get that
for clearing my lymphatic system.
Yes.
Remember long ago when we were in Sweden and we got Swedish massages on my birthday?
Yes.
Because that's somehow the life we're leading now.
So ridiculous.
Quick update.
In our lives, we've done that. Uh-huh.
Remember how we used to tour in Europe? So the second my Swedish massage therapist looked at me, she was like, you need lymphatic drainage, like from the doorway. And that's a really good way to do it.
Oh, I didn't know that. I've bought like 3 of those mini trampolines in my life doing the I'm going to trampoline as an exercise. But I've done it in studio apartments. So
yes.
if after 2 months, if I haven't used it, I get rid of them or like give it to, Goodwill or whatever. So I'm going to buy it when I know it. So it's going to be my like 4th.
You know, what's interesting too, is it is harder than you think. The second you start, you're like, ow, what the hell? Like you really are doing something.
Yes. And you can do 100% trampoline.
It's cool.
It's our new book club. Is everyone get a trampoline? Mini trampoline. We're all going to start working out on the trampoline.
Let's do it. We'll report back about it. Then we'll act like we never started it. Don't worry about it. We're here for you every week.
Give it away to charity when you're done with it.
And give it away.
The end.
What have you been up to besides wishing you had a mini trampoline?
Let's see. I can tell you that you text me over the weekend, you have to listen to these episodes of our still favorite podcast. This is actually happening. We're like spokesmodels for this podcast, but it's so good. And there's just so many. So the one that I listened to was What If You Refuse to Be Annihilated?
Right.
It's episode 123. My God.
It's so perfect. Every word she was saying, I was just like, I love her. What's happening? How is this possible?
The quote in the episode notes that she says is, I believe that people like me that have experienced trauma, I think we're the ones that need to save the world. We're the ones that actually know everything about innocence. That made me feel so many feels. As someone who always felt a little broken because I did and went through so much as a young person and made so many mistakes, I just felt like I wasn't allowed to be involved and have good things. And like, I already spent all my shit. I spent my karma. I spent my good vibes. Yeah. And that was just like, no. You went through that shit. And so now you have a better understanding of it.
That experience is what graduated you into humanity, into the brotherhood of human beings. That's how we're connected. That's what we have in common is shame, that hideous cringe where you're like, it's just me and I'm bad.
Regret.
Every person has it. That's the thing. And that's the thing that I think makes empathy, it has to be a choice and it's hard, is because you have to acknowledge your own before you can go, oh, I now see it in you. Now I get it. I get what's going on with you.
And it doesn't make me a broken person. Well, so the woman who is, the subject of that episode, Renee Denfeld. So now I downloaded her book because she, of course, became a writer, which is part of the narrative, called The Child Finder. And I'm just completely enmeshed. I'm so into it. So,
and that's her second book, The Child Finder?
Because there's a couple books.
Her first book, she immediately got all these awards.
Yeah.
Like you have to hear this story, you guys. What a great podcast.
Yes, such a
great feeling.
So that's what I'm doing. What are you doing?
Nice. I realized I have a thing where I really need a series to be in the middle of.
Yes.
Because when I finish a series, I get a little dip of, now I'm lost.
There's like a big void between series where it's like, what are you doing? Nothing.
Then you search and like, if you try to start one and it doesn't work, it's like going on a bad date where you're like, I'm bad. I guess I'm the one.
I give up for now.
So I hooked into a new one and it is, I heard people talk about it on Twitter.
If it's the one
a while ago.
Vince and I forgot until you said this.
Is it I May Destroy You?
No, but I heard that's incredible.
The HBO series?
We're there. It has to happen.
It's on. Okay. It's on. You will love it.
I can't believe
really
that
good.
Seems like right up your alley.
Yes. And you know what it was? I had been kind of going to what I knew worked for me, which was Scandinavian procedurals.
Real specific.
I'm insane. But they did something exact for me that I was like, no, I just want this. It's like when you just want to eat the one dish over and over kind of thing. And then the other day, like the last one, The Beforeigners that I loved so much was over. And I was kind of just like, well, I might as well, because The Beforeigners was on an HBO series, HBO Europe. So I was like, well, I'll just go tried and true. We know HBO, they make hits. Yes. That's what they do. And there was I May Destroy You. And I remembered so many people going like, this is so good. Yeah. And just right away, I was like, I love her. I want to be friends with her. I have been this girl. Like it is really great. But also completely not. And the fact that it's her, her real experience. It's her life. It's not. Yes, it's not an actress they hired.
That's right.
It's really impressive. She's a really cool, impressive. It's fascinating.
Okay, we're all going to do it. What is it? I Might Destroy You?
I May Destroy You.
I May Destroy You. Yeah. Well, in a completely different realm of life and being, Vince and I have watched it the first one as a joke and then are fucking in it. Cobra Kai. On fucking Netflix. It's like it's like Karate Kid that we all know and love. If you guys haven't watched the original Karate Kid, watch it. It's the two of them grown up and fucking fighting their adult battles.
Ralph Macchio and the blonde mean guy that was the blonde mean guy in every 80s movie.
Yes. It's them as grown-ups and like they keep like when they're like remembering things from their childhood, they actually flash back to the fucking movie. They're able to do like, it's so good and weird. And
Cobra Kai. I'm writing it down.
I recommend it, but you got to watch Karate Kid first.
Yes. If you haven't seen it, you won't get it. Yeah. Karate Kid, which has one of the greatest Halloween costumes ever.
It's in the new one. It's fucking featured in the new Yes, it's so good. Like this one, son isn't getting along. Like it's almost like 90210-y and it's like cheesy drama, but then it gets so good in like understanding the human condition and like, and love and family. And it's so good.
Oh my God.
I know.
I haven't even heard of it. I didn't know.
I know.
Although I saw an article about Ralph Macchio, a couple weeks ago, but I think because for not like spending so much time on social media, I just thought it was like, we're digging in the past because we need to write stories about something.
No.
And so I love that it's obviously it's always
actors, and they look the same. They're like, it's just,
Billy is the blonde guy's name. Billy
Zabka.
Zabka.
Yes, Billy
Hell
Zabka.
Yes. Thank you, 80s
It's just
brain.
a great cast too. Everyone's like just so good. It's and
such a good idea.
Yeah, it's such a good idea. There's a lot of corny bits of it, but it's touching too.
Hey, you know what? I love corn.
Yeah. So really quick before we get into this, the details of this episode, we want to quickly let you guys know that we have heard you and we have responded to you
as we love to do
by putting out "Fuck You, I'm Single" sweatpants.
Yes.
They are in the shop, myfavoritemurder.com in the store. And I think we have now married, divorced, and single. Right?
Yeah.
What more do we need? Widow?
Well, we should definitely make "Fuck You, I'm Other" or just like a blank line. You could write it in with a Sharpie.
Yeah.
So we're excited because we're doing a special show. Yeah. A special. What do we call these, Georgia?
An episode?
God damn you.
Interview? Conversations. Conversations with.
And then it's us, right? Because we're always in it.
Conversations with Karen and Georgia.
And then a third party.
Right.
I have to make sure people understand that I'm in this too. Conversations with.
Yeah.
Ellipses, question mark in parentheses.
Smiley face.
Yeah. So some of you may have seen this go down on social media. We'll get into the actual discussion of it. But David Rudolf reached out to us. And basically, he's the defense lawyer from the foundational documentary series, The Staircase.
That's right.
Which is just basically
how we bonded. The first time we ever met, or not met, but the first time we actually, I think, became friends was at a Halloween party. And we just started talking about The Staircase. I think it just come on. We were both obsessed with it. Theories abound. I changed my mind about my conclusion multiple times that night, as I want to do.
We've discussed it ad nauseum. We have talked about guilt and innocence ad nauseum, as you know. So when I first got this tweet sent to me, it was a little bit scary.
Yeah.
It felt like it could potentially be confrontational. And then I realized I doubt it is. So we reached out, and you'll hear everything else because we talk about all of it in this interview. Yeah. So
it's really special. We hope you guys like it. We had such a blast talking to David and Sonya, such incredible, brilliant people.
Yeah. So please enjoy our conversation with David Rudolf and Sonya Pfeiffer of the Abuse of Power podcast. Okay, so this is a very exciting special episode that we are doing today. So we'll give you a little background on how we got here. Georgia, do you remember I believe it was 4:30 in the morning when I texted you. I sent a screenshot to Georgia, because I, of course, woke up in the middle of the night and started reading Twitter and saw that I had a message from one David Rudolf that said, "Karen, this is David Rudolf. I represented Michael Peterson in the Netflix doc, The Staircase. Could you please DM me when you have a minute? Thanks, David."
And then I panicked, just like you were.
I broke out in a cold sweat. Yep.
Defamation of character. We're being sued. It's all over.
It's over. And then I remembered the great line from Michael Clayton when the phone rings and the client goes, "Oh, is that the cops?" And then Michael Clayton goes, "No, they don't call." And so I thought, would Michael Peterson's defense attorney tweet at me to let me know that he was going to sue us for some reason? Or would he actually just go ahead and do it and not warn me in any way? So that's when I DM'd and said, "Hi, what's up?" And then, of course, basically we had a nice conversation and we got here. So it's really nice to know, David, that you wanted to talk to us. Our guests today, David Rudolf and Sonya Pfeiffer, who are the hosts of the brand new podcast, Abuse of Power. And they're here to talk to us today about basically a whole range of things, I would assume. How are you guys doing?
We're doing great.
Well, I'm getting better. I'm recovering from a day of 5th grade with my daughter.
Oh,
wow.
While also attending a remote deposition and managing a 5-month-old puppy. And cooking breakfast and lunch and cleaning up, all of that too.
So I'm getting better. You're having a chill quarantine.
Just an easy day.
Yeah.
She just needs a bottle of wine.
Don't we all?
Yeah.
It's only
That's the answer.
1:20 in the afternoon. That sounds about time. Well, thanks for being on, you guys. We're so excited. And we've already talked about this, that we bet you guys are so sick of talking about Staircase. So we want to talk about that, but we also want to know everything about the new podcast and what an amazing thing you guys are doing for justice reform. Yeah. We're so fascinated.
But we don't know how much, David, you know about the fact that the Staircase documentary is basically the reason that George and I first met and bonded over talking about and arguing about that documentary. It's big.
I had heard that. I was going to ask you about that because that was the rumor that was going around, but I never was able to confirm it. So it's nice to hear that in fact was true.
Oh yeah, we started talking about it at a party and just never stopped. That was 4.5 years ago, and we never stopped talking about it.
Yeah, really.
So for better or worse, I'm responsible, or at least
you're a big part of it.
Yeah. All right.
What are you fighting about?
Well, we have lots of different, basically this podcast started because we both realized that our entirely unexpert opinion on these, like this whole wave of true crime documentaries, because the Jinx came out like around the same time, and there's a whole bunch of them, but there was so much to discuss that we felt of like what we thought versus what reality is, or what the truth is, or how the legal system works. Mm-hmm. And I think that The Staircase is a great example of a documentary where you are led in a direction and then you get to a place and then suddenly you're taking a hard left and going in a totally different direction. The way they reveal the different things that were going on inside that courtroom with those experts, with all that stuff. I mean, it's truly fascinating. And so we were just thinking we could talk to you a little bit since we have you. We could just is there anything off the top that you think we or people in general kind of got wrong about that case if we only knew it from the documentary?
And Sonya, you were there too, so.
Yeah. Sonya reported on it, so maybe she has a more objective view.
Oh, yeah, true.
Well, I mean, I think you probably could answer the what did people get wrong. And I think that depends on what your point of view is in terms of, was it the right outcome or the wrong outcome, the jury verdict and the way it resolved. What I can tell you from being a reporter is that when that verdict came in, to this day, I remember the moment where they said guilty and everyone was ready to go out to their live shots, but it was like a freeze frame. I mean, I looked at this reporter next to me who was, a rival reporter. We were fighting for the same stories and the same scoops. And she and I looked at each other like, oh my God, how did that happen? Yeah. Because it didn't really matter whether you thought Peterson was an odd guy, whether you thought the stuff that came in maybe, I don't know, could have done it. The truth of the matter is there was enormous reasonable doubt. And even as a layperson at the time, I'm a practicing attorney now, but then as a journalist, I thought for sure it was going to be a not guilty. So I think that if you covered it day in and day out and you saw what the evidence was and what the evidence wasn't, you were shocked at the verdict, because if we believe our system does in fact work, you are supposed to vote for a reasonable doubt. And there were many, many reasonable doubts. But I guess I'm wondering what you think people's takeaway from it is. And when you say, what did people get wrong?
Yeah, it's a little hard for me to say what people got wrong. From my perspective, the outcome or somebody, sort of deciding what happened was really not the point for me. For me, it was, let me show you how the criminal justice system actually worked. And let me show you what criminal defense lawyers actually do instead of how they're portrayed in popular culture. And so for me, what the result was, whether somebody thinks Michael is guilty or not guilty, is really besides the point. I think it's important that people come away with, wow, that sort of seems like reasonable doubt. I think that's important. And I think it's important for them to come away recognizing that expert testimony can be fraudulent.
That moment.
I think what Karen and I in an hour, will tell you the evidence and that's it. There's no nuance. There's no us deciding whether there's reasonable doubt or not, or whether, the expert, we hear the word expert and we're like, well, then they're right.
It's blind faith.
But that's not the case.
And that moment in that documentary, that reveal about the blood spatter expert, it was jaw dropping. I mean, that was that thing where you, as a person who likes to follow true crime and is very interested in it, those are those things where you're like, that assumption that this is the expert and the expert doesn't lie and the expert is an expert, knows exactly what they're talking about. The whole reveal of this stuff he was doing at his house and everything, it was just like, oh my God, this can't be. And I think that's total naivete, but it was such a fascinating element. I mean, it must have, David, driven you insane in that moment.
Well, I can remember watching those videotapes of him doing these experiments and thinking to myself, this is ridiculous. I mean, they're never going to show these to the jury. I'm going to have to show these to the jury to show them how stupid it is. And then they put them on the stand and they're showing the experiments. It was amazing to me. And then, of course, the little victory dance at the end when they finally get the spatter right. So for me, it's important that you all had that jaw-dropping moment. I think a lot of people have. I think the same thing happened in Making a Murderer with the Brendan Dassey interrogation. I think a lot of people had no idea that those interrogations can go like that. And there's a lot of other similar things that are finally being exposed through these documentaries. So I think
what got left on the cutting room floor is Sammy Shabani.
Oh, yeah.
So if you thought that Deaver was jaw-dropping, there was another expert that they brought on that David cross-examined, and it turned out the guy completely fabricated his resume, said that he graduated from Temple or taught at Temple.
No, he said he taught at Temple. Yeah, he said he graduated from Oxford. We're not sure about that.
Right. But he was doing experiments just like Deaver was trying to recreate this blood spatter. This guy, Sammy Shabani, was doing experiments in another case to try to simulate a drowning where he was taking people's heads, real people who volunteered for this, put them in a toilet to see if they'd stay in the toilet and they could drown that way.
No.
Oh, it's one of the great video clips of all time.
It's amazing.
Unfortunately, I can't show it to you right here, but it's.
But the jury saw that.
Yes,
in the real case.
They saw him testify, and then his testimony was stricken because he had made up his credentials.
But then you see this, and so from the reporter's point of view, all of this stuff has been in front of the jury, and even though the jury is told, we'll disregard that. I mean, let's just talk about the experts alone. You watch what you saw Deaver do, then couple that with this other guy, Sammy Shabani, who was an absolute joke. And you recognize that if the jury saw this, there's no way they can believe this because this is baloney. This is obviously baloney. But the fact that their verdict hinged on Deaver's blood spatter evidence, and in particular, the stuff that he said was inside Peterson's shorts, it was shocking. It was shocking that people would believe that. But I actually think the reality is what did it for these jurors at that time was, the bisexuality and social. That's it. That was what did it. They didn't like it. They didn't like Michael. He was already an outsider. And I think that the jury was made up of enough people who were persuaded in that way. And also, from
the Germany stuff didn't help.
The Germany stuff didn't help.
Right.
No, I mean, that was another trial within a trial.
Yeah. And I think, you asked me earlier, what do people get wrong about? Almost everybody who watches that says, well, he killed his first wife.
Oh, that's right.
No.
Everybody gets
it was his wife's best friend. Actually, the wife who he divorced was very alive at the time of the trial and was there in the courtroom supporting him.
As a defense attorney, you wish that the jury knew going in, or, a level of understanding? Is it better if they are, true crime aficionados, or better if they're just coming in without any knowledge of, what an expert testimony means, or, what do you look for?
Well, back then, no one had seen true crime documentaries.
Right. It was all
so
CSI and stuff like that.
And they were basing it on shows that were complete fiction.
Right.
So the truth is, I think that somebody who has watched true crime documentaries, really well done documentaries like West Memphis 3 or Making a Murderer or The Staircase, Innocent Man. People who have watched those, I think, are going to make much better jurors, much fairer jurors, because they understand that they can't take everything at face value.
Right.
Right.
So they're educated jurors. And indeed, part of the reason why I went around, I didn't draw the crowds you drew, but part of the reason I went and spoke was to sort of send that message that, listen, folks, you're now an educated consumer of criminal trials. And so you need to serve and you need to let other people know what you know, because it really makes a difference, I think.
Yeah. You did get that feeling after the, escort testified, where I got that sense of like, oh no, this is going to be the thing that sticks no matter what else they hear. And the thing that, although unrelated in terms of what the crime is that he's on trial for, this is just the thing that's going to make people go moral or amoral. Well, then here we have it. Like they really played.
Yeah. You heard that with Pure Tea Filth.
Yeah.
What is that?
This podcast is brought to you by Squarespace.
Every successful small business starts with someone saying, I wonder if people would actually buy this.
Squarespace gives you everything you need to find out.
From consultations to events and experiences, you can showcase your skills with a customizable website designed to attract clients and grow your business.
With Squarespace's collection of cutting-edge design tools, anyone can build a beautiful, professional online presence that perfectly fits their brand or business.
Get paid on time with professional invoices and online payments. Plus, streamline your workflow with built-in appointment scheduling and email marketing tools.
Head to squarespace.com/murder for a free trial.
And when you're ready to launch, use offer code MURDER to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain.
Goodbye. Every piece of furniture you own has a story.
Sometimes it's an heirloom, and sometimes it came with the house because it was too heavy to move.
If you're ready to start a new chapter with your home decor, there's Article.
Article makes it effortless to create a stylish, long-lasting home at an unbeatable price.
They take great care in curating their collection, focusing on pieces that stand the test of time.
We've talked about Article for a long time. There are pieces in that catalog that are so affordable that are room changers. And if you go through there and there's like a little something you don't even realize you need it until you see how they have stuff set up or what style combinations that they're doing with. They do the boho chic. There's mid-century. It's a little bit modern. It's something new. Like there's so many choices in there and it's not going to break the bank.
As someone who's interested in tons of different styles and time periods, Article covers them all in one place. I love that.
I know I've mentioned already how much I love my entryway table, but I swear to God, because the path that it's on, I pass it 4 times a day, and I love it more every time.
Article is offering our listeners $50 off your first purchase of $100 or more.
To claim, visit article.com/murder, and the discount will be automatically applied at checkout.
That's article.com/murder for $50 off your first purchase of $100 or more.
Goodbye.
There are some questions humanity may never be able to answer, like, what's the meaning of life?
Or even worse, what do I make for dinner?
Luckily, Hungry Root has one of those covered.
Hungry Root is like having your own personal shopper and nutritionist all wrapped in one. They'll take care of the weekly grocery shopping and recommend groceries and meals tailored to you.
Imagine a world where shopping, planning, and cooking food is simple and stress-free. That's a reality with Hungry Root.
Once you tell them about your goals and preferences, they fill your cart with personalized recommendations. And those recommendations recommendations. Get smarter as Hungry Root learns more about what you did or didn't like.
Most of Hungry Root's recipes can be made in just 15 minutes or less.
I complain about dinner and cooking and that kind of stuff constantly. And Hungry Root provides exactly the thing I'm complaining about's solution. Like they make a zesty chicken avocado sweet potato bowl that is exactly what I want at the end of the day, but would never, ever take the time to make. And with Hungry Root, it's just right there. It's waiting for you.
For a limited time, get 40% off your first order, plus get a free item in every box for life.
Go to hungryroot.com/MFM and use code MFM.
That's hungryroot.com/MFM, code MFM to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life.
Goodbye.
Can we ask about ye old owl theory and both of your thoughts on that?
Well, I see some owls behind you there on your wallpaper.
No, those are flowers.
Oh, those are just flowers.
Yeah. No, but my husband
owls
was like,
everywhere.
My husband was
You
like,
see owls, yeah.
shirt and see what they say. It's like, that's so, I'm not doing that.
I scoffed at that theory when I first heard it, just like everybody else did. And I heard it, like 2 days before my closing argument. At a time when, as I told Larry Pollard, even if I wanted to use that, I can't because there's no evidence of owls in the case. Right. And I scoffed at it because Larry really didn't roll it out very well. He rolled it out before he had expert support for that theory. And so people were able to make a joke out of it. And that's what happened. It became a running joke in Durham and then other places. The truth of the matter is that when you really get into it and you start looking at, pictures of people who have been attacked by owls, when you start looking at stories of people who have been attacked by owls, you realize that this is a real phenomenon. You look at her wounds. You look at some of the evidence that was at the scene, like drops of blood outside the house, a feather, in her hair, right. A twig on the steps. All of these things that, back in the day, I sort of wrote off as, inconsequential, take on a whole different light when you're looking at it through the lens of an owl theory. Now, I think a lot of people have this idea that the owl theory means that the owl was in the house, and, what happened to it and where is it? The owl theory was never that it was in the house. It was that she walked outside, and when she walked outside, an owl swooped down, and then she ran in bleeding. So, look, can I tell you that's what happened? No. Right. But can I tell you it's at least as likely, if not more likely, than the blowpoke? Absolutely. I mean, the blowpoke theory never made any sense, particularly after we found the blowpoke.
Right.
And you mentioned the wounds. And I mean, I'll tell you that from the reporter standpoint, and I remember everybody getting the autopsy photos and looking at these very odd wounds on the back of her head, which look like a talon, and there's like 3 prongs and they come down to a single point. No one could figure out how does that happen. And if it is like a split, like her head was hit on something, then how does she not have, any edema or anything like that? It didn't make any sense. Mm-hmm. And then there was also subsequent information that there were in fact owls, and owls had attacked people in the area. And now that we have social media and ways of sharing this information, you see these owl attacks on animals, on people all over the place in Durham and the Triangle. And didn't you just post a picture?
Oh, yeah. Somebody sent me this picture of a dog that had been attacked by an owl. And when you looked at the wounds, they were like identical.
It's true.
This theory's taught us that owls are jerks, really, more than
exactly. Well, there's an owl that lives outside of our house here in Charlotte.
Oh my God!
And you can hear him. I don't know what kind of owl it is, but you can hear him at night.
It is the owl.
And when I'm walking the dog, we have this fairly not a tiny dog, but a small dog. It's scary, now that I know, I'm frightened about it.
It would be so ironic if you got attacked by an owl. Like that would just be.
Boy, wouldn't it be?
Yeah.
Yeah. You're like, not me. I'm not the guy. I'm on your side. But, that's actually a really good point of talking about social media, because I bet this has changed reporting a lot. But also, the way cases work this way, where everybody is getting an education kind of real time. We talk about it a lot, having followed true crime TV, like Cold Case Files, Dateline shows like
Forensic
that,
Files.
you know, from the 80s and 90s. Yeah. Where, you don't know, you only know what the people who are in charge are telling you. And so as we used to talk about how in the beginning, there would always be reenactments in these, true crime shows that were really kind of salacious, and there would be a lot of like blonde girls in red bras being stabbed for a long time, where I remember watching it and just being like, why are we still in this spot? Like, this is gross. And not processing that, like, what we're getting is based on who's giving it to us. It's not the expert. These aren't the people that know best. It's just the people that have elected to produce this story. And it's starting to feel that that's kind of the same. Our eyes are opening overall as a culture to seeing what a small group of people have been in charge for so long, and how they've we only know what they let us know. Mm-hmm. So it's like not until cameras have been in the courtroom do we know the kind of insane hijinks that go on in a courtroom that I would have assumed before that couldn't happen.
Well, and it's not just in the courtroom. How about, Black Lives Matter
Yes.
and shootings? I've known for decades that police abuse minorities. I
Yes.
saw it when I was a public defender in New York. My clients would come in, they'd be totally beaten up, and they'd invariably be charged with resisting arrest. And they tell me I didn't do any. They just beat the crap out of me. And so I knew about this stuff, but all of you didn't. Now with cell phones and social media, all of a sudden people see it for themselves. And, what was so powerful about what happened in Minnesota and now what happened in Kenosha is how raw that is, how cruel and how, it's just shocking. But, this stuff has gone on for decades.
Right.
It's just that none of us knew about it. And I was going to say, I don't know if you saw the story yesterday about the 13-year-old autistic boy in Salt Lake who his mom called for help because he was acting out in the house, and the Salt Lake police arrive and they shoot him.
Yeah.
Part of it is, I think, that the police have become sort of militarized and they no longer view themselves as sort of helping the community. They view themselves as keeping law and order, period. Right. And particularly order. And so, I think that's a real problem. And, our eyes have been open to all of that by social media and by cell phones, really. And so, the first step is recognizing your implicit bias and then trying to work through that. So I think that's part of it, is that police officers, like everybody else, have implicit biases. And then the training is really not, you need de-escalation training. You don't need giving police officers bazookas and, armored vehicles.
Well, beyond that, though, the training piece actually goes all the way back to basic law enforcement training. Before we even get to de-escalation training, what we need to talk about is how police officers are entered into the academy and essentially taught that their lives are in jeopardy every day that they're out on the street. That's not community-based policing. That's not protecting and serving your community. So I think part of the problem is, yes, training at a fundamental level is not started from a place of we are here to serve the community. We are here to create relationships with people in the community. If you think about the best policing practices that nobody will dispute, it is when the officers who are in a neighborhood know the neighborhood. Let's take what happened to Jacob Blake. Okay. I don't know all of the circumstances and who called what in, right? But if you have neighborhood police who know Jacob Blake, who know that there might be some history and they know that there's been a call about domestic violence or whatever the case may be, if they already know him as a human being and they have seen him in other circumstances other than a mugshot, which, by the way, they didn't know, I don't think, before they shot him. But if you have in your mind a human being in front of you rather than an object, and you understand something about that person's life, you treat them like a human being and not like an object. object. And so I think that the training starts with basic empathy training. And I don't mean that in a corny way. I mean it in a very real way. And I think it also begins with the training about systemic racism and systemic biases, because it is simple, but it's complicated. It's simple in that we live in a society that was purposefully set up to discriminate against anyone who is not a white male, and a white straight male at that. And we have to recognize that. And when that society works well, we have the outcomes that we have now. And so we have to begin to break down that entire system. And it won't happen quickly because it's taken hundreds of years to get here, and it was purposeful. So what do? You know, I mean, you have these officers who are already operating within a structure that is meant to discriminate, that is meant to perpetuate racism and sexism. And you have them trained to believe that their lives are in jeopardy when they're on the street. That's a toxic combination. And so I think that, we need better training. We do need more money in police departments, but for the right things. We need to take away, these things that were meant to combat terrorists. And we need to really get down to the basics of community policing and what that means. And then have things like de-escalation training so that you recognize, when a person is mentally ill, you don't put a spit bag over their head,
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's also interesting. A thing I learned and had no idea, because of the Black Lives Matter protests and the activism that came out of that, was the size of police budgets compared to all the other services in a city,
right?
And how insanely 10 times the size in most large cities, which is, it's you, especially here in Los Angeles, where homelessness, is so rampant. And so it's such a huge problem. There's so many people that need help, and the services, like the money isn't there. And yet it's all the money is there for the police. I mean, it's really surprising, but also there's, the study that they've been doing, they've been put into practice. I just read this article this morning, so sorry, I won't be able to remember the city. It might be in Wisconsin though, but they started sending a social worker and a paramedic to 911 calls that weren't direct danger, and 1% of the time those people needed actual police presence.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I thought that was such an amazing piece of information of a lot of the time when people call 911, they don't need guns drawn. They don't.
Correct.
That's not what they're looking for.
Right. Yep. Well, as with that woman in Salt Lake, I mean, she certainly didn't need police with guns. What she needed was a social worker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. And had she known that was going to be the outcome, she wouldn't have called. It's so sad.
Right.
Well, and imagine her guilt for the rest of her life.
It's horrifying.
What should we know, as the public, about when we call 911 or when we're arrested? Or
I think that when and if you're arrested, I think the first thing is don't talk.
Right.
Don't talk.
Be quiet.
Stop talking. Don't answer questions. Get a lawyer.
Yeah.
Do not talk. I mean, it is just and you're probably innocent. Don't talk, because whatever you say, they'll find a way to make it sound like you did do what they said you did.
But the real problem, and I think what's at the root of most wrongful convictions and wrongful arrests, which is probably, wrongful arrests don't get a lot of media play, but
they still ruin your life.
They still ruin somebody's life, and they're probably a lot more prevalent. At root, it's about confirmation bias. It's about a police officer having the idea, and arrogance a little bit. It's the idea that, I know what happened here. And so I'm going to act on that. And then confirmation bias kicks in, and you sort of ignore anything that's inconsistent with your theory. And you focus in on the facts that are consistent with your theory. And that, I think, is, you can talk about false confessions. You can talk about all kinds of ways in which the conviction goes bad. But it's all rooted in confirmation bias.
To your question about 911, I mean, what do people know? I actually think that there's, frighteningly, there's not a good answer, because what just happened in Salt Lake City, that I think really begins to shake those who have put themselves in a place of privilege before and felt like that couldn't happen to me.
Well, here's what I'll tell you that you probably don't know about 911 operators. 911 operators are trained to investigate the call. So when somebody calls in, once they dispatch to the scene, then they're on the phone and they're trained to, in essence, do a interrogation. And so if you're on the phone and you're panicked because you're in this horrendous situation and they're asking you questions, that's not just random questions. It's not just, to sort of keep you calm. They are doing the preliminary investigation. And then whatever you say on the phone is going to end up being used against you.
Wow.
Most people have no idea.
That.
I know. I never thought about that either.
Well, in the podcast, in Abuse of Power, you guys are specifically telling stories of these people who were, who the investigators had tunnel vision, or, they talked when they shouldn't have. What made you guys want to focus on those cases?
It's not so much focusing on the cases are a storytelling device. Anytime you want to educate, it's always good to have a narrative, a story to tell. It's sort of a hook that people will stay interested in. But for us, it was really about illuminating the kinds of abuses that we see every day by people who are in positions of authority. And it doesn't just relate to the police. It relates to prosecutors. It relates to judges. It relates to politicians. We can go on, and we're all seeing, the abuse of power on a daily basis now. And it's dangerous. And so for me, at least, I started feeling this about 3.5 years ago, that we were in for a rough go here in terms of the rule of law. And so for me, this Abuse of Power podcast is not just about wrongful convictions. No, we want it to be a lot broader than that. We want to talk about things like bail reform and the kind of abuses that you see with bail. There's lots of things that don't relate to wrongful convictions that are still abuses of power, both in the criminal justice system and in society at large. And that's really what we ultimately want to really focus this podcast on.
Amazing.
That's great. It's a fascinating thing to actually start really analyzing. And I'm glad you guys are basically, opening up on the other side, because I feel like we haven't heard, this is the side we need to be hearing from in true crime, right? Is the people that actually know in the day to day what this is like and what is actually going on.
Yeah.
Well, and part of what's nice now is that people don't have to take our word for it. They can watch a documentary and they can see for themselves that police can be abusive in how they interrogate a 16-year-old with mental problems. I don't have to convince anybody that happens. They've seen it.
Yeah.
So that's a very important thing.
Sonya, having a background in journalism originally, what role do you think the media and journalism plays?
I mean, we were talking earlier about social media, and I really think that has vastly changed everything, including how reporters view their job, because they constantly have to be, tweeting updates or, sending in new video. And I think that's really dangerous. But one of the large reasons I got out of reporting is because I felt as though it was such a squandered opportunity. I really believe that good reporting, whether it's in print or on radio or on television, has such an incredible opportunity to educate and enlighten people, to inspire people, and to really get to the truth of something. So I think that the media, and when I speak about the media, I'm referring to journalists with a capital J. I think there's enormous value to journalists in our society. I personally am very frightened by how that institution has been chipped away at over the past 3.5 years, and how much doubt is out there about what you are hearing in whatever your choice of information is. I think when it comes to criminal cases, there's an enormous responsibility. And I certainly recognized once I became a criminal defense lawyer that there were a number of things I did as a reporter that made me a very good reporter, but actually were kind of unfair when you
exactly. Exactly.
He just wants to justify the times that he yelled at me so loudly. I was doing the live shot at like 6:10. I'd see my phone ring and be like, "Hello," and I'd take the phone away. "Do you know what you just did to me and my client?" No, but I mean, in all fairness,
was this before you were in a relationship?
Oh, yeah, no, it was during the trial.
Yeah, I know. And look, and I'm with him. Like,
I love it.
Yes. But you know, there are a lot of things that you do. So for instance, I mean, one of the stories that I broke was the story of Soldier Top, of the gay male escort. And that was something that the defense team was fighting to keep out of court. And there was a motion hearing about that.
Thank you.
I am going and I'm reporting to the public about the motion hearing and about Soldier Top. And actually, I think it was
before the jury was sworn.
But not only that, but like even if it had been, the other thing is whatever you report, the jury wasn't sequestered. And so all of these things that a lawyer is trying to do, and look, and it could be the prosecution also, either side, they are trying to have a fair trial. And when the media has the ability to report to the public at large things that the lawyers believe should not be a part of the trial and might even be kept out because they are not reliable, they should not qualify as evidence in front of the jury, you still taint the jury, because then you have splashy headlines, or whether it's on TV or whether it's in the newspaper. And look, many times jurors aren't sequestered, but even when they are, how do you keep anybody off their cell phone these days? Right. So I think that it's challenging, because you have a responsibility as a journalist to get the story, as a reporter to tell, but where is that balance? We don't have the same sort of rules that exist in other places like England, where your mouth is shut, somebody
we
is
learned
charged
that
with
the
crime.
hard way, actually.
Yeah, we learned about that ourselves.
Oh, is that right?
Oh, you did? I thought you were talking about the nanny. What did you guys do?
Well, we haven't talked about this, but Karen, should we share?
I mean, sure. I don't think, because we're in the clear now, but we did a bunch of shows in the UK, and Georgia talked about a case that had just been reopened.
Ooh.
And we toured the UK twice. We had no idea that you cannot talk about open cases like that in the media.
So I could have been representing you guys in the UK.
We were very close. But we had posted it and we pulled it down.
Yeah, and we got a letter from the Crown saying
from the Crown Court
saying that we might be
in contempt.
Yep. Might be in contempt.
We sent in the recording of the episode, and then everybody got to listen to it, and they decided we were not. That basically we were two idiots. But that idea that in England they're like, oh no, you don't get to. That's not your right.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing: in the United States, the First Amendment, forgive the word, always trumps due process.
Yeah.
So, due process is a right to a fair trial. And every time I argue that a courtroom should be closed so that the public doesn't find out about a fact that may not go to the jury, the lawyers for the newspaper or the TV station come in and start yelling about the First Amendment and the public's right to know and blah, blah, blah. And it's there, but there needs to be a balance. And in the United States, there is no balance. The First Amendment sort of trumps anything having to do with due process. In England, because they don't have a First Amendment, due process actually controls. And that's the basis of the distinction between the two countries. And look, you may remember a certain reporter standing out in a cemetery when a body is being taken out of a grave, reporting there about, they're lifting the casket out, and then following it back to Chapel Hill. That was a media show. And it was all done 2 weeks before trial. And the jury had all gotten their notices, so they all knew they were going to be jurors. And, then here comes the autopsy report. It's a homicide. And we tried to seal that, and it wouldn't be sealed. So, you know,
so
how do you get a fair trial under those circumstances?
So
how do you, and it's all her fault.
So you married her.
Now,
So you went and married her.
Yeah, really.
You know what they say, if you can't beat them, join them, right?
But wouldn't you say, I mean, like my first reaction to hearing that, although I absolutely understand the point, but aren't there times where the media are the ones that are breaking this information that if it were up to defense lawyers, we'd never hear about anything that they did, you know, that was not positive for their client, which isn't always serving the reality of.
Let me answer so you don't have to yell.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
It would be an honor to be yelled at by you, David Rudolph.
He's going to yell.
I know,
anyway.
I deserve it. Yeah.
But here's the thing. I hear what you're saying. And so when David said, you know, that the fact that's not going to go to the jury is kept out. What you have to remember about a criminal trial is that the only things that are supposed to be considered by a jury are relevant admissible factors. And a perfect example is the relationship that Michael Peterson had with this guy, Soldier Top, these emails that they exchanged. The guys never actually even met. What relevance did that have at all? It had no relevance, but it got to the jury, and I believe that's what turned the jury. I mean, look, I get that weird, like, okay, so he knew this person who died at the bottom of the staircase in Germany. Again, not his wife. Let's be clear, not his wife.
That is an important distinction.
It's enormously important because it is not, so for that reason, it wasn't the same. This was fully investigated by German authorities. Can you think of anybody on the planet who is more thorough than a German with police power? I mean, come on.
Oy.
And there was no blood at the scene. It was incredibly different from what happened to Kathleen Peterson. And so, sure, once you hear it and you see it in the documentary, you think to yourself, well, of course they needed to hear that because it's so similar. But it's not that similar, and it's not relevant. And there's actually a legal test that you're supposed to run it through, and it doesn't pass the legal test.
Well, and the judge, if you remember, the judge 8 years later said, "Oh, I guess I shouldn't have let that in."
And the same thing with Brent.
Yeah, same thing with the.
So he admits that he shouldn't have.
Stuff.
Okay, because I, you know, as a observer, I think two people dying at the bottom, two women that you're close to in your life dying at the bottom of the stairs, whether or not it's your wife or not, someone you're close to, is an incredible coincidence.
Yeah,
okay,
you have nothing to do with it.
But here's the deal.
Yeah.
First of all, there was no evidence that Michael had anything to do with the death in Germany. Zero.
Okay.
No evidence. Second of all,
It was never even looked at the time.
Yeah. Second of all, she died of a brain hemorrhage, not of some sort of trauma. And beyond that, there was no blood at the scene. These women came in and testified about all this bloody scene. We had, and it's not in the documentary, we actually had the Army police officer who went to the scene and wrote a report. And we had the report, and he testified, and there was no blood at the scene.
Yeah.
That didn't make it into the documentary, but that made it in front of the jury. So, and then what are the similarities? I mean, because she's found at the bottom of a set of stairs, that means that she died as a result of a fall or some crime. She was actually found right by the front door. In that particular house, it's a very small house. You walk in the front door, you're at the bottom of the front of the stairs.
Right. I can tell you what it has done is that my husband and I moved into our house that has a concrete set of stairs inside, and I will not walk down in front of him ever. That's what it's taught me.
Well, actually, he should make sure that he doesn't walk behind you.
I know I won't kill him, but I don't know his mind. Current you is trying to get through today.
Future you would like it if you thought about tomorrow every once in a while.
Now, both versions of you can work toward the same goal with Acorns.
Acorns is a smart way to give your money a chance to grow. You can sign up in minutes and start automatically investing, even if it's your spare change.
The Acorns potential screen shows you the power of compounding and how your money could grow over time. You can quickly adjust how much you're investing every day, week, or month to make sure you're always building towards your goals.
Whether you're just starting out or thinking about settling down, Acorns supports supports your big and small goals across every life stage. Sign up now and Acorns will boost your new account with a $5 bonus investment.
Join the over 14 million all-time customers who have already saved and invested over $27 billion with Acorns.
Head to acorns.com/MFM or download the Acorns app to get started.
Paid non-client endorsement. Compensation provides incentive to positively promote Acorns.
Tier 2 compensation provided. Potential subject to various factors such as customers' accounts, age, and investment settings.
Does not include Acorns fees. Results do not predict or represent the performance of any Acorns portfolio. Investment results will vary. Investing involves risk.
Acorns Advisors, LLC, an SEC-registered investment advisor. View important disclosures at acorns.com/MFM.
Goodbye.
You know your favorite summer clothes by what actually makes it into your suitcase.
Find the outfits you'll wear all season long at Quince.
Quince's 100% European linen pants, dresses, and tops are the pieces you'll reach for all summer long. They're lightweight, effortless to style, and they start at just $32.
Their denim is soft and comfortable, and their organic cotton sweaters are perfect for layering when evenings get cold.
Quince's beautiful 14-karat gold jewelry adds a subtle finishing touch.
So I just went to Italy, and you bet I brought my 100% European linen scoop neck midi dress along with me in the color of floral waterfall, and I wore that thing all over Italy. It was like the perfect day to night. It just looked so pretty, and I felt like I looked sophisticated while still being comfortable.
Make your summer wardrobe feel easier.
Head to quince.com/MFM for free shipping and 365-day returns.
Go to QUINCE.com/MFM for free shipping and 365-day returns.
Quince.com/MFM.
Goodbye.
Summer's for adventures, road trips, and adding a whole lot of miles to your car.
That's why it's worth stopping at Valvoline Instant Oil Change first.
If you need an oil change, make the smart stop at Valvoline Instant Oil Change before you hit the highway.
Their trained techs can help you get road trip ready with an oil change and an 18-point maintenance check included with every oil change, checking your tire pressure, wipers, lights, and more.
That means they're checking important things before you're halfway to your aunt's house with no cell service.
And these aren't just any techs. Valvoline Instant Oil Change techs complete over 270 hours of training, so your car's in capable hands.
The best part, you can stay in your car and you're in and out in about 15 minutes.
So before your next long summer ride, pull into Valvoline Instant Oil Change.
Valvoline Instant Oil Change. Change wisely.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. You know, one thing that's always driven me crazy about the cases that have the get overturned is when I find we find these a lot, that the prosecutor didn't turn over all the evidence, or the investigators don't turn over all the evidence. Is that something that you run across frequently, or is that just
all the time?
Really? Oh my God, laughable. Oy.
All the time. I mean, you know, we have 3 cases right now where we're suing police officers for exactly that reason. You know, people who serve one person served 42 years, one person served 25 years, and the other person served 33 years. And in each case, the police had exculpatory evidence. Well, if you listen to the podcast, Tim Bridges, which is the first episode about a case, Tim did 25 years, and the police had a note that somebody else had been confessing in a jail in the next county, and never turned that over to the prosecutor. So it never got to defense counsel.
Well, that's the thing where they want to, it's their caller, right? It's that weird culture. It's the police culture, why they don't share evidence with other counties or whatever. And I mean, this is obviously half from movies, but it's that idea that it was my arrest. I got the guy. It worked. It's good. And then they just keep working to keep that.
Well, it's partly confirmation bias. And it's partly by the time they found that out, Tim had already been arrested because of confirmation bias. So now what do? Tim
got arrested for other reasons too, though. Well, I mean, that was sort of like Tim got arrested because they hadn't arrested somebody for many, many months in a horrible crime. And this is always the case. They're always horrible. It was a 83-year-old woman who was raped and beaten on Mother's Day. She was wheelchair bound, found the next day by her sister. That's horrible. So you get a case like that and the cops don't find anybody. And Tim wasn't arrested for
4 months. 4 months. But
the
point
is freaking out.
Right. But the point is that by the time that tip came in that there was a guy in the jail next county who was confessing to this, Tim had already been arrested. So now what does the police, what does the cop do? Does he say, oh, gee, I'm sorry. You've been in jail for 6 months, but I made a mistake. Right. Or does he or she just put that tip to one side and keep on going? You'd like to think that they go to the guy and say sorry, but that's not human nature.
No. And it's not police culture, I think. There's that whole part of it too that is.
Well, they convince themselves, oh, that guy's just probably crazy. You know, he's just saying that because he read it in a newspaper, so he didn't really do it. We've got the guy. That's the mind. Look, I don't think police set out to entrap or prosecute innocent people. That happens rarely. And I don't think that happens in, 1% of the cases. It's 99% of the time they think they have the right person, and then they're going to get whatever evidence they need to get to convict that person. And you know what? Most of the time they're right. But when they're wrong, it is really bad.
Yeah.
So how can that change? Geez.
Well, I think you have to have independent agencies essentially investigating along with an investigation. Because you might have a conviction integrity unit that goes back and reviews a conviction, but by then somebody's already been convicted. If you could have again, let's talk about these police budgets, right? You've got a lot of money there. Why don't we create an independent agency that is sort of tracking things along the way? Look, part of the problem is that it's human nature. It's not just that they look for evidence that supports their theory. It's that when evidence that is contrary to the theory comes in, they find a way in their mind to diminish it, to discard it, to say, well, this doesn't matter.
Look, we all suffer from confirmation bias. Every single one of us does. Doctors suffer from confirmation bias. So what do? They have something called differential diagnoses. When you go to a doctor and you give him a set of symptoms, that doctor is at least supposed to work his way through a differential diagnosis and consider various options that those symptoms can fit. And then you start ruling things out. There's nothing like that for police officers. Wow. They're not trained to worry about confirmation bias. And I think that is a really critical missing piece in police training. Police need to be trained about implicit bias. Police need to be trained about confirmation bias. And it needs to be really drilled into them, and it needs to be part of their ongoing sort of consciousness.
But there needs to be independent review as well, because
I don't think anything,
it might not be realistic, but that's what you need.
That's not going to happen, I don't think. I think if you could get real training on confirmation bias and implicit bias, and people took it seriously, and supervisors took it seriously, and supervisors would look at cases with an eye towards avoiding confirmation bias. And if we had sentinel event reviews so that when something went wrong in a case, police departments don't investigate them. They don't really investigate themselves. When a wrongful conviction happens, they try to make excuses for what happened. They don't say, what really went wrong here? Let's figure out what went wrong here, and let's try to fix it for the future. Mm-hmm. That's not what they do. It happens in aircraft crashes, right?
Yeah.
Somebody comes in and says, here's what happened. And then there's fixes, hopefully. That never happens in the criminal justice system. It never happens with police officers. And that's another piece of this. The police have to start taking seriously the fact that they get it wrong sometimes. And the results are devastating. And so they need to figure out, why did we get it wrong? What happened here? And how can we avoid that in the future, instead of just putting blinders on and saying, well, it's just the way it is.
Yeah. I also think there is that, like you guys were talking about earlier, that idea of the external pressure. The worse the crime is,
Absolutely.
the more there's pressure to say you arrest someone now. And that feels old. Like, I feel like we're all starting to understand how often that is bad, how often that goes wrong. Because that is that thing where, yeah, they want results. They're demanding results. We can't just have this, a murderer or a rapist or whoever on the street. And then it's like, so just get anybody and then people will be satisfied. That's the problem.
Right. And if you think about it, and like, for instance, in Tim's case, they got the wrong person, which means that the right person was still out there. And if this is someone who has a serial habit of raping or robbing or murdering, then that continues. And so it really is not serving justice in any way, not for the community, not for the person wrongfully arrested and convicted, and not for the victim and his or her family. No. It is a loss all the way around.
And if you think of that little bit of evidence being, dismissed by the police officer and not being brought forward, that would have possibly led to another suspect. And that suspect has committed all these crimes since then. I would, think the police officer would feel responsible for that in a way if you had done your job correctly.
For every wrongful conviction, there's a victim who never received justice.
Ugh.
Yeah.
And people sort of lose sight of that.
Yeah.
It's the heightened, it's worst case scenario in human experience. Mm-hmm. So people want it to end. They want it to be solved. They want justice.
And that's understandable. It's understandable. But like I said, when it goes wrong, it goes really, really wrong.
Aside from the Michael Peterson case, are there any cases that are just these egregious standouts to you? You might each have a different one, but of what we're talking about, either inside the courtroom, people making mistakes, or the police, or whoever, that you just can't believe how the story actually turned out.
Well, for me, it's Tim Bridges, because I represented Tim.
We represented Tim. He does this all the time.
We represented Tim. Sorry.
That's implicit bias against your own wife.
It's true.
Exactly.
And I pay for that. I promise you.
As you should.
Anyway, what I was trying to say is that this is my case.
You were going to talk about how good I did in the mediation.
No.
Oh, sorry.
The reason we represented him, but it means a lot to me because I got close to Tim and I saw how devastating this was to him. He's a really emotional guy. He can barely talk about, losing his mother while he was in prison without sobbing. And it was, what happened to him was just so egregious. He was raped in prison. He spent 25 years. He wouldn't go into a program where he could have gotten out earlier because he had to admit that he did it. Right, and he just wouldn't do that. So for me, if you're going to listen to one episode, for me, it's the Tim Bridges episode, because I just think it has virtually it has junk science. It has suppression of exculpatory evidence. It has tunnel vision. It sort of has almost everything that shouldn't happen in a case. Yeah. Now you have a different case, I think.
I haven't thought about. Well, I think the reality is there were so many cases we had to pick from. It was hard to narrow it down to 10. And so I think that David's right. Certainly all of those things play a role in Tim's, but they do almost in every case, because we would have to go through and kind of say, okay, what are we going to focus on here? And you could focus on all of these things, whether it's confirmation bias or tunnel vision or any of the cognitive biases. But I think Christine Bunch's case is also particularly moving. She's a mother. She was accused of, charged with, and convicted of killing her son in something that was not even an arson.
Oh, that's
that also
right.
It really is not only a tragic story, but one of these stories where at the end you shake your head and like, how did she not only survive this, but now all she's doing is giving back, and she's created a charity that helps people when they get out of prison with your basic needs, like a shoebox that has a toothbrush and soap and underwear. You think about when you are let out of prison, you have nothing. When you woke up today, what did you have? Right? You had all sorts of stuff. You had a bed, you had sheets on your bed, you had a pillow, you had clothes, you had toothbrush, nothing. You have nothing. So she is really focused on that. So I think Christine Bunch's case is, one that stands out for me in the podcast, although they all do. But, I think right now, one of our other cases, which is ongoing, so we can't comment on it too much, but the Ray Finch case actually is, I think, possibly the most egregious case because it involves such corruption in a county sheriff department, but we aren't allowed to talk about it.
Yeah, that's a case where somebody, an innocent person, actually consciously got blamed for something.
And that's all you can say.
And
purposeful. It was purposeful.
That's right. A purposeful one.
Right.
Wow. This is heavy.
It's so excited for this podcast.
Yeah.
I can't wait to listen to it. And I'm so glad you guys are doing it. It's so important. I just love that true crime is evolving in this way and is kind of following this, that it's following, for me personally, the trajectory of no longer are you just sitting back and kind of commenting on people far away. You really start to understand human life. This is human life, and the value of it, and the idea that we could work toward a real justice for people if, like you're saying, if people could admit their mistakes, admit their faults, do the work, develop these processes better. Training, the idea that I also learned in the last 4 months, that training only lasts for 6-9 months for the average police officer, which seems insane. I would assume 2 years minimum.
No, much less than that. I mean, here in North Carolina, they go to what's called BLET, basic law enforcement training, for 4 months.
Wow.
And then they're out on the street and they get mentored, by somebody else who only had 4 months of training.
Right.
And that's it. And then they become a detective and there's no additional training that's required. I mean, think about that for a second. You move from the street to a detective position, and you don't have to take a single course in interrogation or what the law is with regard to turning over exculpatory evidence. It's mind-boggling to me that you could take somebody and put them in that kind of position without doing any training at all. But It happens every day.
Yeah.
What's something that you both want us as the public, or us as true crime, armchair detectives, what's something that we need to change our thoughts on or be aware of?
I think the most important thing anyone can keep in mind is that we are all human beings. And I think if we remember that, and if we treat each other as human beings with the respect and empathy that we would hope to be treated, I think we'd have a far better criminal justice system. And I think that goes for the public who consumes news and information. I think that goes for the public who serves on a jury. I think that goes for players within the system. I think it goes for investigators, for prosecutors, for defense attorneys, for all of us. I really think if we operated that way as a society, it would be much fairer, and we would see far fewer pain and suffering cases, whether it's a wrongful conviction, or harm to another person. I think that really is the missing link. And if people could adopt that way of living, it'd be a different place.
Yes. And I'm not quite as humanist as Sonya is. So for me, I wish that, number one, jurors would be a lot more skeptical of authority and people in positions of authority, and not just defer to what somebody who's in a position of authority says. I think that's really important. What else?
I think we're learning that these days, actually, just to not, it's not the they don't have the final say, or the only narrative. It kind of a little more question authority going on these days.
And then the other piece is, when I grew up, what I remember was always being told it was better for 10 guilty people to go free than for one innocent person to be wrongfully convicted and imprisoned. And somewhere along the way, I think that got lost. And I think we need to understand the horror of what it is to be locked up, sometimes for decades, for something you didn't do. And people need to take reasonable doubt a lot more seriously for that reason. That's why we have a reasonable doubt standard. And I also think that the verdict in Scotland, which is one of the verdicts in Scotland is not proven, is a really, really smart verdict because, you know, when a juror has to say not guilty, it almost implies the person is innocent. And I think jurors may have a tough time doing that in some situations, particularly if the crime is really egregious and there's some evidence the person did it. You don't sort of want to say, oh, well, he's not guilty. It's different to say not proven because then the focus is not on the person who's on trial. The focus is on the prosecutor and the evidence. And so for me, what I'd like to see people thinking about when they're on juries is whether the case has been proven. And you know, I'd love to see a verdict that says either proven or not proven beyond a reasonable doubt. So I wish people would take that whole burden a lot more seriously.
I wonder, talking about, you know, there needing to be more training, because it's kind of the same thing with serving on a jury where you go in there and you go in. Most people are going in to try to get out, to try to get off. And if there was some kind of a way to educate and maybe there is and I just don't know about it, but about the level of importance, is there any kind of like jury training if it's a murder case as opposed to like shoplifting?
Well, jurors in most jurisdictions get, or at least here in Mecklenburg County, for example, they get shown a film. And they get shown a film that has, you know, some platitudes about the importance of jury service and we thank you and, you know, that kind of stuff. They don't hear from me, you know, they'd hear a lot different message from me. It's sort of an anodyne introduction. You know, and they don't really hear about you need to take things really skeptically and you really need to understand how horrible it is if somebody innocent gets, you know, convicted. And, you know, I think they need to be indoctrinated may be the wrong word, educated about their responsibility in a more forceful way.
I mean, there are jury instructions. So when you are, whether it is shoplifting or whether it is murder one, a jury is instructed by the judge what reasonable doubt is, how they're supposed to view the evidence. But I think part of the problem is that has become such a rote, sort of like, okay, I'm going to go through, here's your jury instructions, here's reasonable doubt. And it doesn't have the same impact. I mean, and
it's all in legalese. It's not in English.
Yeah, right. And then what you have is the lawyers in closing argument telling you to be skeptical, telling you what their version of reasonable doubt is. But as a juror, the only people you're skeptical of are the defense attorneys. And, you know, and so they're the one like, oh, well, you said it that way, but I don't know if I could trust you. So I think that it could all be done better. I think maybe that video that jurors are shown, at least here, I mean, why aren't we showing them something that's compelling and letting every juror know that this is one of the most important responsibilities that they have as a citizen in this country, to serve on a jury, to do justice, and then to really impart meaningful information about weighing evidence, about reasonable doubt. I think that would be really helpful.
Yeah.
It would also be really helpful if you just tell people to trust defense lawyers.
That we are the good guys.
I don't know. I don't trust you saying that. You saying that. I'm skeptical of that.
I'm just thinking of the Devers thing where there is a bunch of blind faith and trust going on, but it's for experts and the people that get called where there should be a thing where you have to see that person's like credentials or something. That happens.
It happens every day. And part of the problem is a lot of this, quote, forensic science is not really science at all. It's anecdotal. You know, there's no testing. You know, you don't have blood spatter experts being called in and being tested on what this means or what that means. Same thing with, you know, dentists and bite marks. Same thing with
Arson
investigators, right?
Yeah.
No matter what, now, DNA was different, but now even DNA is getting a little bit subjective because you have all these mixtures and you have algorithms to figure out what the mixture means. And so, people need to understand that these, quote, sciences are very, very subjective. And there's really no competency testing for most of this stuff. It's one police officer teaching another police officer, and they're all in the same agency. We need independent experts, not people who are working in the same lab with the cops.
Which also removes the possibility for the prosecution to do what they did in Peterson's case, which they do in almost every case. This is your expert. He works for you, for the state of North Carolina. If you can remove that bias and have somebody who's really independent, I think then you get fair information.
Right.
Yeah, makes sense.
I'm going to ask the question that nobody's ready for, which is how did you guys actually, during the case, figure out that you liked each other?
I did not like him.
How did it happen? I'm sorry to just go totally off.
No. This is a fair question. We have different. We should
bring our daughter in.
Different versions.
We have different versions of this.
Let me finish. Let me start with the truth, and then you can color it in the way that you want.
Go ahead.
Okay. Which would you prefer?
No, go ahead.
We have no bias. We're at a blank slate. We're not coming at this.
Yeah, come on. Convince us. Yeah. Who's right?
Yeah.
All right. So this is the retelling of the story goes like this. So I end up getting assigned to cover this case, and it was after the death had already happened. It was a couple of months in. There was another reporter who'd been covering it. We were sort of both covering it for a period of time. I met with David for coffee, or maybe had a phone call, and I set up an interview with him. And it was a big get because he hadn't done a sit-down interview with anybody yet. So I was assigned the best photographer at my station. Her name's Colleen. She had come from Denver, which is a great photog market. We show up at his Chapel Hill office, and we go upstairs to the reception, and he comes out and he says, "Oh, you guys can set up in the library." So Colleen spends 20 to 30 minutes creating the most incredible set. It looked like a Dateline set. The lighting is perfect. She stacked up books behind him. I was like, "Girl, this looks awesome." And so I popped my head on. I'm like, we can tell Mr. Rudolf we're ready. And he comes in, and he opens the door, and he goes, "Oh, isn't this romantic?" I look at Colleen. Colleen looks at me. It was like the biggest eye roll ever. So David has it, and you asked how we realized we liked each other. At that moment, I was like, I really do not like this guy, but I got to cover this case. And so I continued to cover this case. And let me tell you, the more he yelled at me after my 6 o'clock live shots, the less I liked him. And when I say yell, I mean, you heard how loud he's talking to you today. Like, magnify that times 20 in your cell phone, and you're driving on 40 back home, and he's just going off about how he's like in an emergency room, and his client, he's just trying to plug him up, and you're right behind him ripping out all the plugs. Do you understand what I'm like? Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So I've given you like the truth of what happened on that day. And I tell you that day because David seems to think differently of what occurred. So would you like to? Okay.
Well, I think that Sonya obviously was attracted. And therefore she had her photog set up this sort of romantic scene. And
books. Nothing's more romantic than a stack of books.
You can go ahead and rest your case now. I think we have our decision.
Yeah. Oh, your daughter is sick of this story. I bet you anything. She's a teenager?
No.
Oh.
She's 10. She's 10, but she's still sick
basically.
of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Wow.
Anyway, no, I think the interesting thing is, being serious for a minute, we both saw each other at our most stressful, in a situation where you weren't on best behavior. And you were both doing this incredibly difficult job very, very well. And even when I was angry at her, I wasn't angry at her. I was angry at what was coming out of her mouth. It was because it was hurting my client. I wasn't, I was concerned about Michael and about him getting a fair trial. Was that?
It seemed like you were angry at me.
Well, whatever. In any event, so I think what happened is we developed this mutual, I'll talk for myself. I developed a respect for Sonya and what she was doing and how she was doing it. I hope she did the same for me. And I think, that's sort of the genesis of the relationship. It wasn't a like, it was a respect. And I think that's a really healthy way to start a relationship.
Yeah.
So that's how
I think that's true. I mean, certainly watching him work on a regular basis and get such insight into what this work entails, there was absolutely a level of respect that was critical, and I think still is very important to our relationship, because I think if you have that, it gets you through a lot of the really, really hard times.
Yeah, like now.
Like quarantine. Like what's going to go
There's
down
more
after
ahead.
this?
There's more ahead. Good luck with your podcast.
Right. Oh my God.
You're going to be working it all out. Yeah.
That's amazing. Well, you guys are definitely our favorite couple that we've ever interviewed here.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you guys so much for being on. This has been so insightful, so awesome.
Yes.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you for reaching out, David.
Yeah.
We were scared. We were scared. We were worried. We were searching our minds of all the horrible things we said.
We certainly hope that your listeners will tune into our podcast, because hopefully they will get an insider view of what's going on a day-to-day basis in the criminal justice system.
All right. There it was, you guys. We hope you enjoyed conversations with. Maybe we'll do this once in a while. There's so many people to talk to that know so much more than us.
Yeah, we love experts.
If you want to go back of like 200 episodes ago, there's an interview that we do with Guy Brenham that's also really fun.
Yeah, so thanks for listening. As always, stay sexy.
And don't get murdered. Goodbye. Elvis, do you want a cookie? You know that fantasy where you run into your ex while looking impossibly cute and wildly unbothered? Hill House makes the perfect dress for that moment. Or if you're just running errands. Hill House Home is the brand behind the viral nap dress, known for its signature smocking, ultra-flattering fit, and comfort that makes it a favorite for just about everyone. Celebrities like Taylor Swift, Olivia Rodrigo, Anne Hathaway, and Mindy Kaling have all been spotted in Hill House. These dresses are the definition of versatile, perfect for running errands in the morning and stylish enough for dinner or a party that night. And it's not all they carry. They started with bedding back in 2016, and now you'll find bathrobes, pajamas, children's clothes, and maternity, all with the cutest prints. And it's so true. The hardest time picking out one nap dress because the prints are so dreamy and beautiful. But now that I have it, I'm going to wear it all day, every day. I'm going to throw on my leather jacket at night and look like a total badass. Cowboy boots or cute heels, whatever it is, this nap dress can make it look classy. You look like that classy lady you see at the airport. Hill House makes fun fashion that makes you feel good. Get 15% off your first order of $100 or more at hillhousehome.com with code MURDER15. That's MURDER15 for 15% off at hillhousehome.com. Goodbye. The best time to think about home security is before you need it.
That's exactly why there's Simply Safe.
Traditional home security only alerts you after a break-in has already happened, and that's too late. Simply Safe is changing that.
Simply Safe's US-based live agents identify threats on your property and help deter them so intruders never get to your house.
The system is customizable so you can build one that fits your home and your specific needs.
The 24/7 professional monitoring is effective and affordable and won't lock you into a long-term contract.
I think that's what's so scary for so many people is that long-term contract. And like, what if it turns out you don't like it or need it, but they don't have that because they know you'll like it and you'll know that you need it and feel so much safer when you have it. Like at this point in my life, I would never go without a security system on my house. I just feel safer with actually having Simply Safe around.
There's a whole staff at Simply Safe that's waiting to talk to you and help you out. Right now, you can get 50% off your new system by visiting simplysafe.com/MFM.
That's half off at simplysafe.com/MFM.
There's no safe like Simply Safe.
Goodbye.
Vacation planning should feel like a breeze, not a deep dive into countless travel sites searching for the best deal.
With Cheap Caribbean's Budget Beach Finder, you can search every destination and every date all in one search.
You'll save time and money with the Budget Beach Finder.
Say goodbye to endless scrolling and tab hopping, and hello to budget beach bliss at your fingertips.
Go to cheapcaribbean.com to try out the Budget Beach Finder and see just how stress-free vacation planning should be.
Goodbye.